Now, on the eve of Cameroon's 2025 presidential election, the country stands at a turning point. After 4 decades under President Paul Biya, voters are caught between continuity and change. Security forces patrol tense regions, especially in the Anglophone areas, while opposition voices rally for a new dawn. Yet, the real question is not who campaigned louder, it's whether citizens, especially the youth, will trust the process enough to vote. Despite calls for renewal, many young Cameroonians are disillusioned by unemployment, political crackdowns, and fears that outcomes are already decided. This election now tests more than political parties. It tests national belief in leadership, legitimacy, and also the future.
Now, with observers watching closely, the nation sits between hope and resignation. Crowds have gathered but conviction is uncertain. And so joining us now to break down what to expect for tomorrow, we have with us Dr. Nkamwah Limen. He joins us live now. Dr. Limen, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. I want to start with the electoral system for Cameroon. How ready is the nation to ensure a credible and dispute-free vote for tomorrow?
Thank you so much for the question. I'm actually happy to be here. I want to start by saying that when you look at our laws in Cameroon, our laws are tailored to give the impression that Cameroon is a democratic country. But in practice, the laws have certain hidden agendas in the law, hidden provisions of the law that tend to always favor the ruling CPDM. And so everything has been put in place by the regime to rig the election as usual. And they do this through intimidation. They do this through giving out bribes openly to some citizens. And they do this by involving, filling the ballot box. The ballot boxes, that's what they have been doing regularly. So we don't expect a free and fair election, except Cameroonians, they stand for the right and say that we're going to vote, we'll be there to count the vote, and we're going to proclaim the result in every ballot, in every voting station.
Dr. Limen, please, if you will give us an idea of the anatomy, especially when it comes to Anglophone areas, because we hear about the tense patrols around Anglophone areas. Why is there such a tension?
You know, for the past 9 years, we've had the Anglophone crisis, which is, to be very honest with you, like a civil war. And it is inconceivable that in such a climate, elections are being carried out in these areas. You know, I am an Anglophone, but believe me that I've not been to my region of origin for the past 9 years because of insecurity. And so the question therefore is, how do they carry out elections in those areas? The urban towns like Bamenda is safe, Boya is safe, Limen is safe, Umba is a kind of safe, but a majority of these areas are very, very unsafe. And then we know for sure that our administrative officials are all members of the CPTM. They work directly in favor of the persons who appoint them, which is a regime. And it goes without saying that whatever results will come from those areas are results which are fabricated to maintain the president of the republic.
Doctor, I have to ask, you know, given these issues that have mounted, you know, just again, as we go into these elections, the country is at a crossroad, either hope or resignation. And there's a likely chance of first-time voters, even in the Francophone areas. But will voter apathy prevail?
Yes, I want to say that of recent, we have experienced, or in this election, we experienced the enthusiasm from people to vote, because everybody in Cameroon, except the few that benefit from the corrupt regime, everybody is anxious that this regime should be flushed out. And so that apathy has been transformed to enthusiasm. Many people are enthusiastic And you see, the government tried in every manner to eliminate the most prominent candidate, that is Professor Maurice Kamto, but later didn't know that Issa Chiruma will be coming so strong. And today we have Issa Chiruma, who is a force to reckon with. And I think that Cameroonians, especially, even in Anglophone regions, they want to change. Some of us actually spoke to those separatists and the belligerents that the problem is the system is bad, and it's only through elections that we can change the system. And so we advocated that peace should reign during the day of the election. The people should be allowed to go and vote, and that's the only way we can flush out this corrupt regime. And so there is a lot of enthusiasm, and I pray that for once Cameroonians should take the responsibility to carry out this election process till the end. We've seen panic already because the Minister of Territorial Administration came out with an order yesterday, which is contrary to the electoral the provisions of the electoral law, forbidding people not to stand in groups after voting, all those sort of things. Why? The law says that we have the right to vote, we have the right to count, and in each polling station, we have the right to count and pronounce the results. So there is a time, we've got to a time that we think that those threats, those ministerial actions, which are directed to discourage, dissuade, and to stop Cameroonians from going to vote. This time around, I think we are enthusiastic enough to go and vote, and we are going to vote hoping that we will count our vote, stand by our vote, and make a change in this country, because enough is enough.
At a crossroads, of course, enthusiasm is very important, but willpower is another, right? And those who are at the highest office, especially the electoral umpire, holds a duty to the people. And so one has to ask about accountability and transparency, and whether or not you, from your own standpoint and from their body language, do they have the willpower to uphold the people's mandate?
You know, the answer is no, they don't have the willpower to do that because of personal interest. But equally, you should know that the will of the people has always surpassed the will of a few egocentric bunch of people. And so when the people decide that change will come, change will come. I think, for example, you see what happened in North Africa. Nobody could imagine that within a very short period of time, some regimes, very strong regimes, very powerful regimes, will be toppled. And so I think that Cameroonians have suffered enough, and that the main opposition candidate that we are supporting, I am supporting Issa Chiruma, and I know that he's somebody who can fight for his victory till the right result is proclaimed. And I think that Cameroonians are ready to see a change in this country. So whoever will stand on the back side of history will have themselves to be blamed. We are going for elections, we're going to vote, we're going to count, and that's why we're saying that results will be proclaimed from the polling stations, so that at the end of the day, we know the true results and we don't wait for the Constitutional Council or ELECAM to give us a cricket results. So we are bent, there are many organizations that are bent, that the candidates are bent on the provision of electoral law that provides that each county, each polling station, the results of each polling station shall be counted. And then there are some platforms that have been put in place that people, those representatives, will send those results into those platforms. You know, the military can clear down people for some time, but they cannot do it all the time.
Okay.
And I think that the French Revolution of 1789 should be indicative, should remind our government that there are times that the military will not go out to massacre people who want justice.
Dr. Limen, I hear you when you say Cameroonians are ready, but how ready is the electoral apparatus that is on ground? Now, how ready, or rather, what makes up the electorate itself? what dynamic of people, is it more young people than older people, and what influence will this have on the outcome of the elections? We've seen young people agitate for change across Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria. We've seen it across the world. We saw it only recently in Bangladesh. We also saw it in other Asian countries as well. So how ready is the electoral body, and what exactly is the makeup of the electorate, and how will that influence the outcome of the elections, do you think?
Yes, I want to tell you that the honesty is majority, more than 3/4 of Cameroonians, they want a change. And that majority is the electorate itself. The old people are disgruntled, the youth are disgruntled. Indeed, nothing is working in this country save for the people who are in government or those who are benefiting from the government. I want it to be known that a free and fair election, if there is a free and fair election, the incumbent president can never win this election. First of all, physically, he is very, very weak. At this age, we expect him to rest. And so, those who want him to stay in power are the people who want to be ruling the country indirectly. And so, the electorate, in all honesty, the majority of the electorate will vote for a change in this country because it is clear, it is very obvious that the present regime has failed. And I'm saying that if we go to a free and fair elections, we are going, Isha Chiruma is going to win the election. So the question should rather focus on what do we do to prevent these minorities who have always rigged elections in Cameroon. Because as for the people are determined. The electorate is determined to vote out the president. This is a president who's not been able to do campaign. He went to one region, very, very tired, and has never gone to any other places. You expect the same person to come and be the president to rule this country again for 7 years?
Dr. Limen.
So, as far as, before you talk about the empathy, that people were not willing to vote because they knew that whether they vote or they don't vote, the result will be tilted in favor of the incumbent. But now, we think that we've been pushed to the wall and certain steps have been taken for us to ensure that our votes are counted and that the true results is proclaimed.
Well, so Dr. Limen, let's fast forward to after tomorrow. Let's say the elections go hitch-free, no violence and nothing, however that the results are contested. I'm wondering if Cameroon has the institutions to actually help manage such a situation if tensions are to arise. It's a grim question, but it has to be asked.
We have one of the problems we have in Cameroon is we have very weak institutions. Very weak institutions. And so, if elections, the results are not, if the election is not properly managed, be rest assured that there will surely be violence. I am not praying for that, but it is, you can read that in the minds of everybody who is anxious for a change. And of course, if there is violence, the government has shown us in the past how they quell down this violence. By
who would be at the forefront? Who would be at the forefront of such an action if there is violence? Which group of people would it be?
Well, they act indiscriminately. They send out the military, they catch, they arrest everybody on the street. If you are found on the street, they arrest you. So it is a regime backed by intimidation. It's a regime which uses intimidation as the weapon to cry down the people. But as I said, election is a time for people to decide. They should allow these people to decide and let them proclaim the results as the people have decided. And then I want it to be very clear that you cannot keep people under pressure, under terror for all their lives. There is a saying that when you push somebody to the wall, of course, when you cannot go further behind, the person will come in front. And so there is that possibility. There is a possibility that we will have social unrest. Remember, in the northwest and southwest, in the Anglophone regions, there were these grievances that when the Anglophones had been telling, which were not resolved. Limen didn't know that was going to turn into a full-blown war like what we have. So if that could happen in Anglophone Cameroon, why don't they think that it could equally happen in Francophone Cameroon? We don't pray for that. We just want that the rule of law should prevail. We want that people should vote, participate in counting the vote, and proclaim the results. And that we don't trust our institutions. We don't trust our institutions. Our institutions are fabricated to maintain the present president in place. That is the truth.
Yeah, Dr. Limen, I wish there was enough time because I was going to ask about whether that trust deficit also extends to international observers who will be observing the election and the process and give their assessment afterwards and what it would mean for electoral reforms in the nation and for its future, the political future of that nation. But I must say thank you. All eyes are on Cameroon, and will this be the end of a long era when it comes to leadership? I want to say dictatorship, but at this point, journalism. Dr. Limen, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this. Dr. Limen joined us to give us insight as Cameroon gears up for the presidential elections tomorrow, Sunday, 12th October.